Well, what's up, gamers, or should I say developers? Yeah, this video is for developers out there. It's free information. Use it or ignore it, entirely up to you. But it's definitely hard truth time. And understand, just to be completely clear, I'm not trying to deliver this information in an overly negative or shitty way. If you take it that way, that's your interpretation. It is not my intent, okay? Again, just trying to be perfectly transparent. Okay, so then what is the hard truth? Well, as the title states, seasons don't work. They just don't. Don't get me wrong. I understand why developers love the idea of the seasonal model, right? They take less time to develop. They take less staff. They're quicker and easier. And who wouldn't want that? It's like that age-old adage, work smarter, not harder. But the problem is that the reasons that the developers love seasons are exactly why gamers dislike seasons. All right, and what I mean by that is when we look at those once or twice a year big updates, why they build so much hype and why they build so much excitement is because of the huge influx of new content that comes into the game. New location, new mechanics, new loot, new story, new enemies, new, right? But that ratio is flipped when we go to seasons. All of a sudden, there's not nearly as much new, a fraction, with a ton of reused or recycled assets or content. And to be completely clear, reusing or recycling assets and content, that's an SOP in the gaming industry. It's a standard operating procedure, right? So I'm not trying to crap on that. I'm just simply saying the real issue is how much is, right? What is the ratio of reused or recycled assets and content, right, versus new? Well, with seasons, typically it's a large majority of the season that's reused or recycled with only a tiny little piece of new. Whereas with those big once or twice a year updates, it's a huge chunk of new with only a tiny small fraction of recycled or reused. So that's why seasons are just not appealing to gamers, why they don't build the same excitement or hype as those big once or twice a year updates. But it's the same story every time, regardless of the game. I've seen it time and time again where a studio tries to shift to a seasonal model. Players that are logged in every day start logging in once a week. And that becomes once a month. And that becomes once every few months. And then all of a sudden they stop logging in entirely. The games that retain the majority of their player base are the games that recognize the data, recognize seasons don't work, and quickly shift back to those once or twice a year big updates. Now, the games that double, triple, quadruple down on seasons are the games that tend to suffer the most because gamers just don't get excited about seasons and they go on to play games that they are excited about, right? That's really the thing here. So, again, understand it's your game, and to add to that, I understand that a lot of developers out there, you don't get a say in what the game does. There's some person sitting in a chair in an office somewhere that makes those calls, and it's out of the developer's hands. I understand that. And by all means, it's your game, you can do what you want to do, but understand going into this that if you make the call and you decide, yep, we're going to seasons, understand your game is going to suffer. Your game is going to lose a huge chunk of players. Now, your rebuttal to all of this may be, well, what about games that launch with the seasonal model? Well, that's the point, isn't it? Games that launch with the seasonal model tells players exactly what they're getting. Hey, this is a game with the seasonal model. You can't complain later and go, well, I don't like the seasons. Well, that's what you bought into. You bought into a game with the seasonal model. How can you later then say, I don't like the seasons? Right? That's what you bought. So, but even those games tend to suffer from the same problem over time. They just do. Eventually they start losing players, the player count dwindles. In fact, Sea of Thieves right now is going through that exact thing. The issue here is when a studio doubles, triples, quadruples down on seasons. They refuse to accept the data in front of them. They refuse to see it, and they say, no, players are going to like the seasons. I promise you they're not. And it's not because, out of spite or, anger. It's because they're just not exciting. They're just not. Unfortunately, there's so much reused and recycled content reuse. Look at Destiny 2 as an example, right? They have this gambit mechanic where you bank this like triangular looking moat. And we've seen this mechanic probably a couple hundred times at this point. Through all of these seasons and through all of these updates, they reuse it time and time and time again. All right. And so we've seen this mechanic so much, it's been recycled so many times, we just roll our eyes at it at this point because it's just like, really? This is what we're doing now? We're just going to keep using this stupid gambit mechanic? That's the issue with seasons. We get a new season, a quote new season. It's a location that we've already had for years, oftentimes, with enemies that we have often had with years, with mechanics that we've often had for years, with loot that we've had for years, right? And maybe it's a different color. The loot is a different color. But then that's really it. So you can see why it's not that exciting. And ultimately, if we boil this down to like the kind of base level, right? Can you eat pizza every day for the next 6 years? No, probably not. I love pizza, but I can't eat pizza every day. I would get sick of it pretty quickly. Well, it's the same thing. When you ask gamers, hey, we're going to do the same thing over and over again for the next few years, of course players are going to get sick of it. Of course they're going to walk away. Of course they're going to go play a game that's more exciting, right? Of course they're going to order something different. Why wouldn't they? You've been feeding them the same thing every day for 6 years, right? Of course they're going to want something new. Anybody would. So that's really kind of the problem here. Now, again, it's your game. You do what you want to do. It's entirely up to you. I'm not here to tell you what you can and cannot do, but I just want to give you the information. And I know some studios out there are going to close their eyes and plug their ears and say, no, and try to ignore all of this, but you can't say later that you didn't know, because you did. Because we told you. I mean, all of these games out there that have gone to these seasonal models have all suffered the same result. So while I understand why the seasons are so damn appealing, they're the exact reasons why players don't like them. So feel free to let me know what you think down in the comment section below, or don't, whatever you're feeling. And until next time, peace out.